I think it's time to revisit a classic. Let's talk about gold. A little while back, I painted a Trajan Valoris, the Adeptus Custodes character with the all bright gold armour. And something that was really popular about that video, something that a lot of people engaged with, was wanting to understand techniques for painting true metallic metals, getting lots of contrast in them, making them look bright, that kind of thing. Well, since releasing that video, I've worked out a few new things, I've got a few new ideas about metallics, and I've found a technique quite recently that I think really pushes them in a nice way, and uses a mixture of both the matte and gloss finishes of washes and metallics, combined with the values of the colours themselves in order to create contrast in a couple of different ways. I think this is really interesting and it's not going to take long to go over, so let's dive into it. So first of all, this is my Lieutenant Calcius. I've been working on this guy to go at the head of my Ultramarines army beside Marnius Calgar, and I'm going to start out just by using Balthazar gold on all of the gold areas on the miniature. Now, this is obviously a lot darker than you would normally start from for gold. Retributor armour would normally be where you would start. But by having this nice dark base underneath, we've got a good solid bottom end from which to push some really lovely contrast in our metallics. Okay, so now we'll start to actually turn the coloration towards gold. We'll start to get some Retributor armour in here now, but we're going to be painting the volumes here. We're going to be looking for the areas that would wholesale catch and reflect light, kind of treating it how we would a normal matte paint. So as you can see, I've kind of lit the volumes on the rest of the miniature already, and I can kind of use this as a sort of thematic guide to tell me how to light the gold at the same time. So I'm just going to start placing this Retributor armour in the areas where I want to start creating the beginning of highlights. Now here's that part where I said that we were going to talk about using the luster, the finish of the paint, whether it's matte or gloss, in order to help push that idea of contrast. By keeping our shadows really matte as well as being dark, we can actually further accentuate the contrast and make this gold stand out a lot more. So we're going to get some Agrax Earthshade here, and we're going to shade all over with it. As you'll expect, this is going to sink into all of the recesses, and it's going to give us some nice deep dark shadows, some really good definition. It'll bring all the texture up in the miniature as well, which is very, very nice when painting metallics, because they do go on a little bit thicker and it can be easy to lose texture with them. Okay, for the next step, we're going to now glaze in some Retributor armour. You don't often use metallics as glazes, and it can be kind of viewed as a little bit of a counterintuitive thing to do, because metallics are essentially a flake and a transparent component, and when you start to really thin them down, they split up quite a lot. But in this case, it's just going to allow us to build some films of reflectiveness back into things. It's going to create a bit less of a stark contrast. Otherwise, we're going to go from very matte to very shiny. So this just helps us build back into that without affecting the overall colour too much. Right, now I'm going to get some of my Vallejo metal colour airbrush paints. I'm going to get some chrome and mix it into Retributor armour and start to bring up my highlights now, start to push some of the top end of my highlights. So where I already had that Retributor armour in, I'm now going to start adding to those existing highlights using this mixture of Retributor and chrome. Now we're going to add even more chrome to that to start to get some really pinpoint highlights, and even, to be honest, you could even go with some pure chrome at the very tips if you wanted to. This is where you're really starting to get your sparkle now, much like when I was highlighting the blue here, I started to get all the way up to almost pure white. In the same token, we can go up to almost pure chrome, and it's going to give a very similar effect. Okay, so here's what it all looks like when it's done. I think it looks grand. I think this is a really nice approach to painting metallics. You're just treating them a lot more like you would treat your flat colours when you're painting with volumetric highlights. So it kind of just works in your brain. You don't really have to think about it too much. You just highlight the trims how you would highlight them if you were using a flat colour, which makes it really easy, for my simple mind at least, to process. But I don't think just that little wiggle under the camera there is good enough. Let's put him on the Lazy Susan and have a proper look at him. So that is my Lieutenant Calcius. I love this miniature. It is literally my favourite Space Marine sculpt. I absolutely adore it, and I'm so glad to have finally painted it, and I'm so glad to have found a good reason whilst painting it to bring you some content. I hope you found this video interesting. If you like this workup, or if you want to talk about it a little bit more, get at me in the comments and let's have a conversation about it. Don't forget, if you did like this video, you can hit the like button. You can also subscribe and enable notifications if you want to stay up to date on what I'm doing over here on the YouTubes. If you would like to, I do also have a Patreon campaign where you can support the channel by pledging as little as $1 a month. So with all that said, I'm going to get myself out of here now, roll the end credits, thank my existing patrons, and I will see you in the next one, everybody. Thanks for watching.